All right, so today's video was actually a request from someone else. I believe it was Andreas. Thank you for your comment on my other YouTube video. And they wanted thoughts on kind of spicing up your D&D games with these kind of filler quests. And so I'm going to kind of be bouncing between maybe a couple of things, but the main focus will be on these quest sessions, or like I would kind of consider like shopping sessions is kind of one of these kind of like filler things. Every now and then it's great if you've been running a campaign to give your characters a break from kind of the normal story, to allow them to do things that either they want to do. It gives you an option or an opportunity to roll dice with, little or no consequences, which is always fun. And a lot of the times it comes down to like gambling or like playing in-game drinking games or something like that, where the characters really aren't losing much. If they're losing stuff, it's going to be like gold, and there's a chance for them to win gold, stuff like that. So I'm going to go over kind of two sessions that I had in one of my longer campaigns, and kind of give ideas on maybe how to incorporate these filler quests or these filler sessions in your campaign. Like I said at the beginning, I think it's very important to give characters a break every now and then, instead of just always trying to driving the story forward. Sometimes it's nice to take a break and just kind of do something fun or entertaining that the players want to do. So the first question that I would have as a DM is, these filler sessions, do I want them void of anything to deal with or dealing with the normal campaign? Like, do I want this just to be a shopping session, or do I want this just to be a gambling session where the characters can have fun, let loose, like talk to some interesting characters or something like that? Or do I would need these kind of like filler sessions to also be driving the narrative of the campaign forward? So I think that's the first thing, that if you are wanting to kind of like design this fun session, I mean, I say fun, but all of D&D should be fun, but separate from the campaign. So do you need it to be separate, or do you also need something for the players to kind of obtain, or do they need some information that is important for the quests going forward? So that's the first thing. Both of them are valid. There's no wrong way to run a session. As long as everyone's having fun, then I think you're running the sessions well. But that's something that you should be thinking about as a DM. So I will first, one of the sessions that I had was my characters. This was Horde of the Dragon Queen, and in the Horde of the Dragon Queen, there's like this long slog of road travel. In the road travel, got pretty boring and pretty monotonous. So about halfway through, they reach a town, and that town is just supposed to be like a quick in-game, you rest for 2 days and then you continue on. However, because the characters or my players had mentioned like, oh, it would be fun to stop at a town to do stuff, then I thought, oh, well, if we're stopping at a town in the game, I can create kind of these, side missions or quests or whatever for maybe the characters to like make some extra gold or get an item or something like that along the way. So it's not just, oh yeah, you're a bodyguard for this caravan and that's it. So they wanted a way to make some extra money, and we had this town. So in the town, I kind of asked them like, oh, what did you want to do? People obviously want to gamble. So I feel like if you are doing something like this and your players don't give you any idea of what they want to do, I think adding some sort of gambling is more than likely going to be fun for the characters. There are plenty of games that you could just look up online. Like if you don't want to make your own dice games, there are plenty of free resources that you can look up. I'm sure if you search D&D gambling dice games or role play gambling dice games, I'm sure there are people that have already compiled a list. So if you don't have an idea, that's one way to do it. Another way that you can do it is you could have some sort of version of like a blackjack. Maybe you're rolling D10s or D12s or something like that to determine everyone's cards, quote unquote. Or you could legit just play, like you could get out a deck of cards and literally just play your games, but gambling gold instead of like actual money. And the players could be playing against you if you're the house or whatever. So they wanted gambling. I also thought it might be fun, because I had heard this before, of using kind of like player combat is another idea. So I told them that there was this kind of underground casino. So it was like gambling wasn't allowed in the city or in the nearby town, but there was kind of this underground fight ring that someone could put together for them and get them competitors, and the players could actually go up against some NPCs and fight NPCs. And I actually had two of my characters that wanted to fight each other, and so letting the players do that, in a way where they have like a healer on staff, or they're paying the local cleric to come in and take care of people, so it's not like people are dying or anything like that. Like the stakes are low for messing up. And then there's also the gambling on top of that, so you could place bets on who is likely to win, etc. So that was a lot of fun. I thought that it would be cool to have this kind of underground casino that was, down below this underground fight ring that was below one of the, sorry, this buzzing in my car is triggering me. So this underground casino, the underground fight ring was beneath a bar, but to get into the bar, or to get into the underground area, they had to figure out this code, or they had to get the secret code from someone. So it was just kind of like a fun thing like that allowed them to kind of do something like that with low stakes. And then I had some other kind of throwaway missions that they were kind of very quick. I don't know if I liked them or not as much, but it was thinking of like, oh, well, what else could the characters do? Or the characters were like, oh, we want to make some money. There's a bounty board. Or is there a bounty board somewhere where we can go make like 50 gold or something like that? And so I think quickly it was like, oh, you have to track down this person. And I gave them kind of very obvious clues, or it was something along those lines where they were able to kind of figure it out fairly quickly, make some extra gold, or, you know, oh, you got to go bring the town drunk in, or, you know, whatever it is. Yeah, so those would be, or that was kind of the one scenario of kind of this underground fight ring and gambling and stuff that allows, you know, your players to do something that's not, you know, the normal campaign, while also like letting them, I don't know, be in their character and kind of experience things as their character would. Kind of the second side of this is these shopping sessions. So I know Critical Role does these on occasion, and to me, for whatever reason, these like filler quest stuff really happens to be some of the more memorable things that the players do. And I think part of it is like the player input. So, you know, if you're asking your players, you know, maybe you end as you're coming into, or yeah, you end your session as you're coming into a town, and then you can ask your characters like, hey, next session, I really don't have anything. What's something that you guys want to do? And I'm sure players will have plenty of ideas, and then that can help get your juices going in terms of figuring out what you want to do, and then you can choose to just do what the players want for that one session, or you can kind of try and weave the campaign into it. So the second one's kind of like a shopping one. To me, having kind of a unique character, which is what I talked about in my video yesterday, creating this unique NPC goes a long way in creating a fun spot for the players. And also kind of the environment, like if the magic, or if the like magic shop or wherever the players want to go feels very interesting and like you've put a lot of work into it, I think that also is why it makes it more memorable. But depending on the type of campaign you're running, so this won't work for every person in every campaign. I'm not super generous with magic items, but I do give magic items fairly regularly. So it's not like my players are not getting like, you know, the rare or legendary items or anything like that at super low levels, or even at lower levels. Like those are reserved for higher levels in my opinion. But you could just use a magic item generator or something like that. Or if you know like your players want a specific item, then this is kind of where you can curate that. So if you know, for example, one of my players was looking for a short sword and they just wanted like an upgraded short sword. So that was one of the things that I had for them. The downside was they didn't have enough money to purchase it. So then from there, I kind of gave them a quest, and it's like, hey, I will loan this item for you, or loan this item to you, but it's going to be cursed, and until you complete the mission and let me know that it's done, or my contact, or, you know, someone will let me know that it's done, once they do let me know that you've completed your task, then I will lift the curse from the item, and then you can just kind of have the magic item. So the player didn't have enough money, and it was something along the lines of like, get vengeance on my name. And I left it really vague to leave it interesting for the players. And the character that they had to find was in the city that they were going to anyways. But then when they got to the city, it, added for some interesting roleplay and then interesting storytelling, where they ended up murdering this guy who they probably, or I don't know if they would have, had to murder him, but they did. And then it was escaping the scene before getting caught by the guards or whatever. So those are kind of two things that I've used. I have also played in a campaign where there was an arena, and I thought that this was a really fun idea. And instead of fighting players or whatever, the arena would go out and get creatures. So the players could wager whether or not they could beat a certain creature. And then that would partook a few sessions of us going to the arena and either fighting monsters or fighting like boss-like characters who were kind of like, the heads or the reigning champion of the arena. So that's kind of another option of fun things that aren't necessarily story related, but you could make them story related. So if you wanted to have the head of the arena be an integral part to the campaign, which in the campaign that I played in, it didn't really start as that, but he made this character, and then he was a character that the party liked, or most of the party liked. And so we would keep coming back to him and asking him for advice and stuff like that. And then that character kind of became part of the campaign, and then we ended up having to defeat him later because of he was an evil guy doing evil things, as they usually are. Or it could be like my gambling or fighting arena thing, or the fight pit, where there really isn't a goal, and it's just like, oh, well, if you win, then that's fun and you get gold, and if you lose, then, whatever. You could also change gold with items. So if there's an item that your characters need to get, you could do something like that. So that's kind of things that I have thought about. Andreas had some ideas for being in the Feywild, and they were saying they wanted some sort of sporting event kind of session. There was a horror circus session, and then they were thinking of like a laid back, chill beach kind of like session. And those are the examples that they gave me. So so for sporting events, I think it's really fun if there's a way to get the players involved. I would highly recommend, if you're doing any sort of sports or just anything in general when it comes to kind of these like fun sessions, in my personal opinion, the dice should always be the thing that is like undecided, or you let the dice decide. So I wouldn't have an outcome like, oh, I want this baseball team to win. Well, let's use baseball as an example. Sorry for non-US people, but you never have that. It would be like, oh, well, you could even have the players roll, and it's like, they're going to roll a d4 for how many runs they get an inning or something like that. And then that will kind of go back and forth between the groups and whatnot. So that you don't know the outcome. And then there's a way for the players to participate. Athletics is a skill is a skill check, and I think that using athletics for sports makes 100% sense. You could also find a way to think of different ways to incorporate other stats for other types of games, and yeah, so that would be kind of an idea for something like that. The horror circus, I think, is a really fun idea, especially with the Feywild, and D&D has already kind of put out something like this. So if you aren't aware, there is a Wild Beyond the Witchlight, which is a D&D campaign for 5th edition that Wizards of the Coast put out. So you could look online, potentially find the PDF online, or go to your local game store and buy it there, or buy it on Amazon, whatever you want to do. There is that, which is already pre-written, and then you can kind of look through that, and there is a kind of carnival/circus part in that campaign that you can kind of take from. I'm sure there's also one-shots, or Critical Role Season 2, I believe, started in a circus. And so there might be kind of fun ideas for you there. In the Wild Beyond the Witchlight, there are different rides that the people can go on. And then going on the rides, there are things that happen. And then it's like, figuring out how players want to overcome these challenges. So for example, if in Wild Beyond the Witchlight, they have a dragonfly ride where you ride giant dragonflies, and one of the dragonflies takes off, and so I was like, oh well, my character's going to chase off after it and try to calm the dragonfly down. And then if they're able to do that, then you can kind of reward them and something like that. Or you can just go full on carnival in carnival games where the players have to do or get to play these games that kind of give fun prizes. I think if you are going to do something with kind of any of these, I think the circus most though, if you're going to try and have that be more part of the campaign, figuring out the main reason or the main thing that you want the players to kind of get throughout the session, I think is going to be important for that. Unless you literally want it just to be a pop-up circus that came, and then when the players go to sleep the next day or whatever, then it's just gone and no one's there, or, something wild like that. And then kind of the beach session, playing sports, I'm thinking beach volleyball, or there could even be a fighting ring on the beach or something like that. Drinking games also, I think, or I don't know if I said gambling again, but yeah, gambling. A lot of the fun filler episodes, I just automatically go to gambling because that's what I think a lot of people like and enjoy. So yeah, those are kind of my main thoughts, and when I have implemented kind of these filler sessions, we'll call them, or a side quest kind of things where the outcomes aren't necessarily super important to the story, but there are definitely ways that you can make them add to the story. So yeah, that's going to be a video for me today. I hope you liked it. I hope you got something out of it. If you have more questions, please leave them in the comments, and I'd be happy to reply to those when I see them. So yeah, have a great day. Take care. I'll see you tomorrow.